And welcome everybody to our next session of the SELDAY Summit. It is wonderful to be with you here with so many people from all across the world. So please go ahead and type in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're from. So go ahead and type in the chat. Let us know where your location is, what your organization is, and also let us know, if you would, what your role or title is. And for Gia and Molly, please make sure you close out. Don't have the streaming window going on your computer, or you'll get a little echo sound will be happening. So I'm Jim Vetter. I am the Executive Director of the Social Emotional Learning Alliance for the United States, and along with Urban Assembly and with 6 Seconds, our international partner, we are hosting SELDAY. This year's theme is Today's Students, Tomorrow's Leaders. And we'd like to start off by thanking our sponsors. We have our advocate sponsor, Antioch University, our supporters, Second Step and Pure Edge, and Harmony Academy at National University. And we are also thanking our promoters, Responsive Classroom, Fly 5, Ruler from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and Satchel Pulse. And we'd like to give really a particular thank you to our advocate level sponsor, that is Antioch University. And Antioch University's mission is to provide learner-centered education to empower students with the knowledge and skills to lead meaningful lives and to advance social, racial, economic, and environmental justice. Antioch has partnered with 6 Seconds and has one of the only SEL-focused PhD programs in the country, as well as other professional development and degree-bearing programs. So please check out all of these at selday.org/exhibit. Our session now is another really exciting session. This one is on how social media can bring students into support for SEL. And I will turn things right over to Molly.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here on this day. Thank you for coming to our session. We're very excited to be here with you. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Yep. Okay. Maybe. Is this working here? Okay. So I am here with Equip Our Kids, and I'm sorry, I'm having a trouble here. And we are a national nonprofit campaign based in LA. We're raising awareness about emotional intelligence, life skills, and social emotional learning, especially among parents and students. That's our main focus. We also provide pro bono media and video services to grassroots SEL organizations like the state alliances. And our main goal is to have comprehensive SEL life skills instruction in every kindergarten through 12th grade classroom in the US by 2030. So a little bit about me. My name is Molly Mandelbrot. I am a psychology, neuroscience, and education undergrad at UCLA. I am also the chair of our youth board of Equip Our Kids. And I volunteer in a behavioral economics lab that researches life transitions here at UCLA. I had on and off engagement with SEL topics in my K through 8 education. In general, my school was very focused on emotional intelligence, emotional being able to express your emotions. Also, they put a big emphasis on resilience and having the skills you needed to keep going in life when things were really hard, and they really pushed that. They also had very child-centered learning. We did lots of hands-on projects. We did discussed a lot, we journaled a lot, we went into nature a lot, and I was incredibly grateful to have this experience of having such a wonderful education K-8, and I felt that it really set me up well for high school and then college. And I felt like a lot of my peers coming out of high school and in college didn't get as much of a holistic kind of education with such like emotional skills that I was taught. I felt like it really helped me have strong communication skills, especially with adults, which is we're not seeing that as much these days. And so when I got to UCLA, I found Jay Levin, who's our president and founder, at an event that was held here at UCLA. And I heard about his mission to get social emotional learning into schools. And I thought it was just wonderful. I wanted other children to have the experience that I had. And so I started working at Equip Our Kids about a year ago. And it's been an amazing experience seeing how we've had to grow and morph and change to adapt to the world that we have now that's very digital and media centered. So here. So our agenda today is I'm gonna discuss a little bit about what I saw in high school, middle school, and in college with what young people are experiencing today, how we've seen SEL benefit students already, a little bit about how you can get involved, and then our social media manager, Gia, is going to talk a little bit about what the online world looks like and why SEL is necessary on the online world, and how best to use social media to support social emotional learning. We'll also talk a little bit, she'll also talk about what we've done so far at Equip Our Kids and how you can do the same. And then we'll hear from some comments from two of our members of our youth board, Tanisha and Jada, who couldn't be with us today, but recorded their comments on this topic. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A. Feel free to send any questions or comments in the chat as we go along, and we'll do our best to answer them all at the end. So some of the main things that I've noticed among my peers in high school, when I was in high school, and then also with my brother, who is currently a 7th grader, is that children, young adults are more disconnected than ever. I think we could all agree on this. And as I'm hearing in my psychology courses and in seeing in the labs, is that there is a loneliness epidemic going on. People are disconnected. They are feeling the effects of having such a digitalized world. They're feeling the effects of being more disconnected. And we are social animals. This is not as we're supposed to be. I have also seen my friends, especially the women around me, struggling to find viable partners with emotional intelligence. And that is a really big deal. We're going into our 20s, and lots of the women around me are saying, I don't see kind of like a higher standard of emotional ability in the men, especially around us. And for a lot of people, that's really scary. And I think that it's not, it's more that the boys were kind of failed earlier on in life. They weren't given the emotional skills weren't taught the emotional skills that they need to be successful and feel good both inside of school and outside of school. I'm also noticing that we noticed in a study at UCLA where we kind of surveyed grandparents and talking about how things have social interactions have changed over time, and they said that they're very disappointed in the way that their grandchildren were conversating. They weren't able to hold conversations and ask interesting questions and be engaged with their family members, and they were really saddened that it had gone, that the world has gone this way. So they were really hoping that they could find a better way to interact and connect. Additionally, people are unable to express emotions in a healthy way. They're using drugs and alcohol and media consumption to kind of numb themselves because they don't have the tools that they need to understand their hard emotions. There's lots coming at us all the time these days, and it's a lot. It's too much really to understand and to grapple with on your own. You need these skills to be able to go, take what's happening, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, and still be productive and resilient. So again, as we all know, there's wars going on all over the world. There's general division and conflict. I see this all across the UCLA campus. I see it's an election year. It's all around us, and it's coming at us as well on from TV and social media, of course. And then a major thing I've noticed in middle schools, especially with my brother, is extreme racism and anti-Semitism. I'm originally from Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco, and it's known as a very progressive area, very educated area, and it's interesting to me how it doesn't really seem that way in the in his classroom, at least, and it doesn't seem that way in most middle schools. And there's lots of bullying, racism, anti-Semitism. He had a bar mitzvah about 6 months ago and was afraid to invite his classmates for fear they would bully him for being Jewish. He doesn't talk about it at school. He doesn't feel that he can. And this is really scary to me. It's scary to, I think, a lot of the parents where I'm from, and that this is happening. There's also lots of drug use and crime rates. Even in he's among 12-year-olds. This is what's happening in middle school already. So that's some of the main things that are happening for him in middle school. And then again, I've seen friends struggling with motivation to do their work, lack of confidence and beliefs about what they can do, what they're able to do. And then I've also seen an inability to solve conflict effectively. So that's kind of the main points of what I've seen with myself, my friends in college, my friends in high school, and then of course my brother in middle school today. So I'll just quickly go through these. There's a lot of statistics that kind of go along with what I was discussing from what I've seen in my own life. 3 to 10 million children annually are victims of domestic violence. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys under the age of 18 experience sexual abuse or assault. 1 in 4 teenage girls and 1 in 10 teenage boys self-harm. And in 2021, 11.5% of males and 25% of females in the United States reported that they had a major depressive episode in the past year. And then 1 in 5 adults in the US experienced mental illness in a given year. It's a very high number. There's 58.2% of high school seniors reported that they drink, 34.9% use marijuana. 48% of American adults report abusive experiences at work. And then obviously there's much larger, bigger wars and nuclear weapons that have been created in the last 100 years. And so again, there's personal level interactions and then larger experiences in the world that show that there's extreme conflict, and it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot. These numbers are a lot to deal with. These experiences are a lot to deal with, and people don't seem to have the emotional abilities that they need to grapple with and be resilient and move on in their lives when these things happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've seen social emotional learning work to kind of reduce some of the harms of these experiences in life. So these are taken from the Cassell website, some of them and some of them other places, and you can go check these facts out for yourself. Years after students participated in SEL, their academic performance was an average of 13 percentile points higher than peers. One interesting study from Columbia showed that for every $1 invested in SEL programming, you save $11 that would have been spent on costly interventions like remediation, recovery, etc. Social emotional learning can also reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety in the short term. Students participating in SELs at school had decreased emotional distress, fewer externalizing behaviors, improved pro-social behaviors. A few more here. SEL contributes to reductions in bullying and aggression. So we've really seen across the board that it helps students not only academically, but emotionally and in the future in their lives. Okay, so next up we have Gia Rutkowski, who is our social media manager, and she's going to talk a little bit more about how you can use social media to promote social emotional learning in your own personal lives. Gia, take it away.
Hi there, everybody. Let's see if this works. I think my slideshow is now. Is the slide moving? Are we seeing that? Excellent. Okay, perfect. Hi there, everybody. My name is Gia Rutkowski. I am the social media manager for Equip Our Kids, and I'm also a public speaker. I'm a consultant focusing on marketing and any general outreach to Gen Z. And again, I do social media management for Equip Our Kids. Basically, any kind of media production is my field of expertise. I do also have a personal TikTok that I am frequently on. And there I make videos for your kids, for your sons, daughters, nieces, nephews. If you have students, for your friends, for your loved ones. If you're younger, for yourself. And I consistently get comments and messages similar to this. 3/4 of my audience are under the age of 25. And from all of the messages I've amassed, there seems to be a very general consensus. And it's that most young people don't realize how the online world affects them until it slaps them in the face. This is a photo of me with my first phone, and it's me at the wise age of 12 years old. And I'm sure if there are any parents here, it is a familiar scene if you have blossoming teenagers, the glazed eyes, the isolation, the gnawing panic of what could they possibly be doing on their phone. Let me tell you, when I was 12, I wanted to be a lawyer. Now, when I was woefully informed that I couldn't attend Harvard Law School, I took the second best route, the internet. And G. Rakowski's dragon profile picture could be seen plastered all over Instagram comment sections, arguing over topics I couldn't even begin to comprehend. And of course, as this became my favorite pastime, I received my fair share of threatening messages and personal blows. One heated debate went so far that my opponent found my grandmother's phone number and began calling her. And if I remember correctly, this stemmed from an argument of whether or not milk should be put in the bowl before or after the cereal. Now, to tear a lesson from my childhood misfortune, I can confidently say that de-escalation is an unheard of term online, and it's only gotten worse. Because you see, as the internet grows larger and more all-encompassing, as do the feelings invested in what happens digitally. I mean, just last month, there was an angry outbreak between two groups, those who are fans of music artist Nicki Minaj and those who are fans of music artist Megan Thee Stallion. Now, people posted videos anonymously, or so they thought, but before we knew it, addresses were leaked, and in fits of rage, people actually began showing up to the offenders' homes. And of course, these offenders were just people who held an opinion that others disagreed with. Now, of course, this sounds insane, but it's actually a commonplace practice online, so common that it has its own term, doxing. Now, when we have conversations about SEL, we always reference how it helps in the real world and in real world situations, which is great. I mean, that's entirely valid. But if you're a parent, I'm sure you can vouch for the hours your child spends on their phone. I mean, it's attached to them. It's always in their hand or in their pocket. And it's entirely different from when you were younger, right? I mean, the internet used to be a stationary place, a boxy computer on your desk or in your living room. You would sit down, log in, browse the internet, check emails, and then log off. It was that simple. But now the internet is everywhere. It is all encompassing. It is mobile. It's in our hands. It's on our wrists. It is over our eyes. The internet is no longer just a spot to sit down and check your emails. It is the first place we go to talk to our friends, to post to our classmates, to be exposed to new music, cultures, religion, education. It is an environment, and it hosts an entirely different world from our own that exists alongside our own physical world. Now, what does that mean? It means that things that happen online are often reflected in real life as well. For example, this is a graph of empathy rates in college students from 1995 to 2019. Do we want to know what happened in 2007? The release of the first iPhone. And there is a documented correlation between social media use and this decreasing empathy. Now, I make videos on a lot of topics: attention span, prejudice, internet polarization, consumption, lack of identity, all patterns prevalent online, patterns that I've noticed reflecting in the real world. And in my videos, after identifying the problem, I offer solutions. And do you know what the solutions look like? Self-awareness, empathy, consideration, open-mindedness, communication, responsibility, social awareness, all pillars of social emotional learning. And in a digital age, these skills are more important and more rare than ever. Part of what I do is understanding the exact structure of social media platforms that Gen Z frequents. Algorithms, content, echo chambers, all are critical to the success of the online world. And this structure exists for one sole purpose: to maximize the amount of time young people spend on the platform. So how is it done? By defying everything SEL stands for. Major social media platforms operate on sorting users into algorithmic groups that are very similar to themselves, same values, beliefs, biases, same person. And when your thoughts are constantly mirrored back to you online and you spend a lot of time online, disagreement becomes unfathomable. You grow used to your echo chamber. And once you encounter an opposing perspective in real life, it feels like a slap in the face. It's ridiculous, unbelievable. How dare they disagree with something so many people on the internet have agreed with? They must not be worth your time. In fact, I'm sure they're stupid. I'm sure they're horrible people with terrible values. I'm going to condemn them as such. And suddenly, this graph starts to make much more sense. Right now, America's youth are in desperate need of help. Mental health crises are skyrocketing, loneliness is epidemic, and young kids are robbed of the skills to empathize and nurture with each other. And when many of the patterns at fault of sparking these are fostered online and are popularized by those who spend a lot of time online, we have a starting place to tackle the problem from. But social media is an intimidating beast, especially for those of you who aren't raised with technological pacifiers like me. But luckily, I postponed my law school plans to learn exactly how to use the platforms that are entirely foreign to you. Now, no matter your age, message, and skepticism towards social media, you can maximize your success with a simple, all encompassing formula. Identify what, how, and who. What is your message? What are you trying to convey? What do you deem as important or worthy of your precious time to talk about? What resonates deeply in your soul? What lights you up with purpose or sets your world ablaze? What do you want to tell the world? Okay, got that down? Perfect. That is the first step and often the hardest. It's your message. Next, we look at the how. How do you want to communicate this message? Visually or with graphics, written either informatively or like slam poetry. Here, you're an artist experimenting with digital mediums. Would you rather casually tweet it or post an Instagram selfie with your message in the caption or make an interpretive dance on TikTok about it? Play to your strengths. If you're a good writer, perhaps write a caption or a story post. If you have an eye for design, open Canva and create a visual. Find how you're going to tell the world what you have to say. Lastly, who? And this part is especially important. You see, if you create something for everyone, you create it for no one. Just like how you want to find your specific message to share it, you need to find your perfect person to share it to. Here, you're making what I can only describe as an exact avatar. Think of it like choosing a digital best friend. You're not just going to take anyone under your wing. Who needs to hear what you have to say? More importantly, who will listen to you? Sometimes you can't spend your energy lecturing to deaf ears. Who do you want to talk to? And you need to be specific. Man, woman, something in between? What is their favorite color? How old are they? What do they wear every day? Do they like Pepsi or Coke? Visualize this person. Walk up to them, shake their hand. Do they have a firm handshake? I want you to imagine this person exactly. Remember, it's your avatar. The more clearly you imagine them, the easier it'll be to produce content for them, to cater your words, graphics, and messages around them. So what you have to say will strike them harder. You always need an audience, otherwise you are speaking into an empty void. Now, I know that was a lot of information, but just to simplify, it's a simple what, how, and who. Now, let me give you an example. I've been creating content for Equip Our Kids for a few months now, and I went into it with this exact formula. My first infographic I created had more of a challenging audience. I wanted to target people who needed to hear it the most, parents and adults who are skeptical of SEL. Maybe they've heard biased things about it in the news or online. Maybe they don't understand the curriculum or why it's important in schools. Now that's fine. They still need to hear this the most. Our message here, or what we wanted to tell parents, is how to tell them to help their kids. What do their kids need in their future? How will I say this? Through a mix of graphics and text married together on Canva. Now, here was the tricky part given my ideal audience. Who? Here, I envisioned someone very specific. A few years ago, my mother was working on implementing SEL in the preschools she oversaw. Now, many of these preschools were private and within our Greek community. And of course, as a Greek myself, I'm very familiar with the parenting style. So when my mom initially proposed the plan of SEL, dozens of Greek fathers rose out of the shadows in anger, shirts unbuttoned in fury, their gold chains were clinking. How dare this woman try to indoctrinate our children, is what they were saying. They thought social emotional learning makes their sons crybabies. They thought they made them gay. It's against their masculinity, allegedly. They could not believe the church allowed it. Now, that was the person I wanted to make this infographic for. So how did I do it? Well, I started by not using the words SEL. If I were talking to these fathers and I wanted to sell them my message, what would they be most receptive to? What do they want? Well, they want their kids to be doctors, lawyers. They want their kids to be the president. They want their kids to be successful. So that's the word we used. Now, I didn't use words that held a connotation to the Greek fathers, such as words like communication. Instead, it was the power of words. Phrases native to SEL, like self understanding or emotional awareness, are too controversial for my avatar. So instead, I opted for emotional assessment. Now, this whole infographic did in fact convey the exact message of social emotional learning in my desired format, but I just switched up the wording for the who so they would actually listen to me instead of their biases. Remember, what, how, who. What? Helping kids reach greater success. How? Both written and with graphics. Who? The Greek fathers who accused my mom of trying to make their sons gay. And it worked. A mere day after posting this infographic, it got thousands of views, and a large portion were from my desired demographic. It struck them hard because I catered it to them. Right now, the online world is saturated with content that makes the nation's youth apathetic, unempathetic, and worst of all, utterly separated from each other. And we may not be able to beat the algorithms that foster this, but what we can do is flood them with information to combat the polarity of emerging generations. I mean, in the past month alone, Equip Our Kids social media has reached thousands of individuals, from infographics helping parents reconnect to their kids to tips for teenagers on how to beat their feelings of loneliness. Populating the dark online world with light and support isn't something that's just going to happen naturally. It is entirely in the hands of us who are passionate about it. And allowing the potential learning curve of social media to hinder a message that could help millions simply doesn't cut it anymore. We know the problem. We spent this whole presentation identifying it. Now, so the solution is simple. It's what we're all here for. It is social emotional learning. Naive 12-year-old me arguing with adults in Instagram comment sections was reckless, yes, but now when the addresses of your kids could get leaked, when the division is so prevalent online that young kids are consuming hateful media every day, now more than ever, we need change. And I just handheld you through the tools and steps of sparking it digitally in the world where it's needed most. I mean, it's as simple as opening Instagram right now and reposting a photo on your story, because mere awareness does more than you know. And there are countless ways to do this, both online and offline. You can make a difference. If social media is still frightening, Molly does have a diversity of other options for you. If Molly, you want to take this slide.
Can you hear me? Okay.
There you go.
Yes. So like Gia said, creating social media content for you, your peers, your school, wherever it may be, is one excellent way to get involved. But there are also other ways for any students on this call. I'm not sure if there are, if you are a parent or teacher and want to encourage your students or children to do this, you can join our youth board at equipourkids.org. We love the more voices we have, the better. We're making change every day. It's a really exciting place to be. It's really you can really have your voice heard and make change for peers for your peers, and also have some more greater understanding for yourself of these topics and how they might help you. That you can also organize to get social emotional learning curriculum at your school. We have all the resources you need. We can help you talk to administration or make a presentation or any way that if you want to feel that this is important and you want to see it in your school, your children's school, your own school, the school that you work for, come to our website, equipourkids.org, and we have everything that you could need to get that started. Do you go next? A little bit more for parents. Any parents on the call, we have a parent kit on our website. You can see the effects at home immediately. Again, like Gia said, promote SEL at your children's schools or on Instagram. And then you can subscribe to receive our weekly tips. People really loved hearing these. We send out a newsletter every week. And then, of course, you can advocate at your school, talk to the PTA or other parent groups, schedule a meeting with school administration, and really fight to get SEL into your children's classrooms. Okay, so now we have the pleasure of hearing from two of our youth board members, Jada Short and Tanish Ramchandani. So we'll see video 1 first.
Hi guys, my name is Dhanesh Ramchandani. I attend a small private school here in San Francisco by the name of Liquid Meridian High School. And yeah, I'm just about to head to school actually, but I thought I'd quickly record a video for everyone. And I'm sure you guys are all here to learn more about SEL, so I think it would be all the more helpful to learn about it from a perspective of a high school student such as myself. So yeah. I think it's also worthy of mentioning that I'm not here today because I am currently taking my SAT. So yeah, fingers crossed, everything goes to plan and I get the score that I want. But if not, then you know what, just go for the next time. It's okay. Yeah, I think my relationship with SEL has been sort of a topsy-turvy one. I remember in kindergarten, at a time when I don't think many schools had even yet started to talk about what SEL was. I remember in kindergarten, we would have a teacher, kindergarten to first grade, sorry, we would have a teacher who would come into class specifically for the purpose of SEL. And it would be just like any other class. We would have like 40 minutes set aside with her doing several activities, learning about like I statements, what conflict resolution was, how to resolve a conflict in the first place, and pretty base level stuff. But when you think about it now, I think, you know, I'm eternally grateful to my middle school for providing me with that, because I think, you know, after kindergarten, after middle school, you didn't really hear about it much, because, you know, your life was occupied with other stuff. In San Francisco, you sort of have to, it's really interesting, you have to apply to a high school just as you would to like any other college. You have to take like a standardized exam as well. So yeah, I remember that being definitely a stressful time for me, but compared to the stress that I'm facing now as a junior in high school, it's incomparable, I would say. But yeah, I think talk about SEL sort of wavered off at that point. But then once I started to begin high school in my freshman year, sophomore year, leading into my junior year, you definitely started to hear about SEL a lot more. And I think that's in part why I decided to join Jay and his team on Equip Our Kids, was because of how much I was seeing that as like a topic being discussed. And I think that's with due cause as well, because as you know, like people my age are the leading statistic in people who experience mental health and issues such as that. And I think SEL is definitely a way to combat that in our society. So yeah, definitely an important tool. And for all the parents on the call, I would say that having your child definitely engage in some social emotional learning, whether he's in high school or not, whether he's in college or not, I think it's definitely an important tool. Just to give you some context of like what my experience is like, I think definitely experiencing like some struggle and some like strife in your life helps you to realize how important SEL is. But it shouldn't be always that you have to experience problems in order for you to understand that. And I think if people have that in your locker prior to facing any issue, when you do face an issue, you'll be a lot more better equipped. No pun intended. So yeah.
I think social emotional learning would help my friends out as far as it would help them deal with their stress better. A lot of my friends, I've noticed, like, they're very stressed a lot of the time because they're trying to get their work in and they don't know how to deal with like all the emotions and stress that they're dealing with at the same time, that they're more worried about their work than their mental state. So I feel like if we taught social emotional learning all the way like from elementary school all the way through high school, it'll definitely help. Like something, I feel like the lessons that I continue to learn throughout all of my like career of school have stuck with me. So I feel like if we did that with social emotional learning, it would definitely help. As far as other people, I would say it could help people that get in fights a lot. Maybe a lot of them don't always come from the best environments at home, and while people expect you being able to deal with your emotions to be like a basic skill, but it's not a basic skill if you didn't come from an environment where it was like taught to be a basic skill and accepted, because maybe they came from somewhere where they couldn't express their emotions freely. So I feel like it would definitely decrease the fighting. Obviously, there's still going to be problems. Nothing is completely fixable, but I think we could definitely decrease the rates of fights if we put social emotional learning throughout the whole curriculum, all the way through middle and high school, not just elementary.
I came from a very, very small middle school in San Francisco, so transitioning into high school was naturally going to be a challenge for me. I remember being very timid in freshman year and constantly spending my time in the library, which I don't regret because it paid off in terms of my grades. But I think that spending that time socializing would have been maybe a little bit more beneficial to me. I don't know, because I can't go back in time, but I think I found the people who my interests most align with now, and I'm very proud of my friend group. I definitely see ourselves staying in contact even after high school, but I think a part of what allowed me to sort of establish that relationship was finding people whose interests aligned in yours. And I think that's also a very important aspect of social emotional learning, is how to maintain and discover meaningful relationships in a period in your life when those meaningful relationships can get you places, and they can support you mentally, but they can also provide you an upper hand in terms of, expanding a social network. And I think that's also a very important thing to keep in mind, especially as you move into high school. I think another important thing that made me sort of different from my peers was the fact that I didn't have any social media platforms coming into high school at all. And that's not because I was someone who denunciated having any social media. It's not because I hated social media. It's just because I simply never downloaded any of the apps. And I think that also helped me sort of realize where my peers and where my age group's mental state was at a time from like an outside perspective. And I heard a quote the other day where like you call social media social, but in no way is it social, because it definitely sort of limits your experiences with people face to face. And I found that very interesting. And this is not something that I ever conveyed to any of my peers, because obviously it's pretty normal for people of my age to have Instagram, and I recognize that I was definitely not normal in that sense. But yeah, I think it allowed me that perspective, and I only got Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter and all those things this year. But yeah, I think having that perspective was very important in my overall understanding of social emotional learning, and I think as a high schooler, and for any other high schoolers, just providing time to sort of engage in those more meaningful relationships with people face to face is not only a way for you to sort of show off how much you know about social emotional learning, but it's also a way for you to maintain a lot of those skills in social emotional learning, because along the way you will face different issues that arise within your friend group. You will face different challenges that need you to sort of pull those skills out of your back pocket and be the bigger person in that sense. So I think that's a very important aspect of high school that's allowed me to enrich my social emotional learning skills.
I think the best way for students to get out the word about social emotional learning is social media right now. A lot of people have social media, specifically for younger people, Instagram and TikTok. As far as parents, I would say the same, also social media, but teachers, they could talk to VPs and stuff to try to get stuff in the announcements, maybe even get students to talk a little bit in the announcements about it, just to spread the word. And then obviously talking to their classes about it, checking in on them, making sure they're okay, asking if they could help with anything, like mentally, beyond just schoolwork.
Those two are so wonderful. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna ask some of the questions that I see in the chat here. Thank you for everybody who's leaving comments and asking questions. This is really wonderful. It's nice for us to hear at Equip Our Kids, and it's nice for everybody else to hear and to see what others are thinking and agreeing upon. So Gia, I think I'll ask you this first question. We got a question. What role can teachers have? My objective opinion is to make our students become creators instead of just simple consumers and wasting their precious time. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, so that is actually very true. I've spoken about this previously. There are typically two, I would say, massive categories of Gen Z on social media right now, and it is creators and consumers. Now, the creators will typically output consistent content. The consumers will just consume it, given the names. Um, what I will say, however, is just simply encouraging young people to become creators often isn't something that is enough. You have to kind of really implement skills of like creativity and just generally like being someone who stands out from the crowd, who actually goes out of their way to produce original content, originality, original thoughts, things like that too are things that are going to become very important if someone wants to be a creator. Now, unfortunately, a lot of Gen Z right now are stuck in a rut where they are consistently consuming endless content. And as a result, they begin to mirror and reflect it. So if they do create content, it is going to become an echo of what they consume online. So, what I can say there, and this is just a very general thing, and this applies to parents as well. One of the major reasons why social media right now is such a massive, I would say, influential factor for Gen Z right now is because when you look at traditional socialization factors, so things that sculpt young kids into who they are today, traditionally it's factors like family, friends, school, religion, your region, culture, socioeconomics. But the thing is, a lot of those factors can now be found entirely online. You can find friends online, you can find religion online, you can find specific culture online. You can find a lot of these sculpting and molding factors in an online world. So as a result, the online world becomes a primary factor of socialization to these kids. Now, if you want kids to kind of detach the way they think from social media, I would say bring up the influence that you as a parent or you as a teacher have on your student. Be there for support. Be there to kind of talk through them with things, kind of give them your mindset, your perspective. Don't force it on them, but offer it freely so you become kind of an influential factor in the same way social media is. Because right now, I would say for students, a lot of their current thoughts and mannerisms would stem from, I would say, like 70 to 80% social media rather than real life experience, which is natural with the evolution of technology, but it is something that would be healthier to combat and also just to even lessen the gap between generations so people are able to aid each other better. So to kind of like summarize, it is partially implementing skills like creativity and free thinking and individualism within your students, but it is also increasing your own influence on them via like consistent support, listening, helping them process in a way where you help them too, directly, solely by exposure.
Great. Okay, our next question here. We see social media to be a problem with the parents as well. How do we engage the support of the parents in attempting to help their children use social media more responsibly? I know this is kind of a similar question.
No, but I mean, you can go into something else though there too, because the thing is, a lot of kids will only be receptive to help from their parents if they feel like their parents understand it. And unfortunately, a lot of parents simply don't understand social media. They weren't raised with social media in the same way kids were. They know what time before it, whereas we very much do not, where it is so impactful upon us. And parents simply are not either on social media, or when they are, they're not in the same echo chambers that their kids are on. So, what I would say for parents, kind of open by shifting your approach to it. So instead of sitting there and seeing your child on their phone and say, hey, get off the phone, ask them what they're watching. What are you doing? Explain it to me so I can understand firsthand. Foster the connection with the child through what they're consuming online. Then not only will your child feel closer to you, but then you will understand it more firsthand. Now, when you kind of develop your understanding of what your child is consuming online, then you can kind of have more of an influential, I would say, hold over helping them in a way. Once you understand it, your child will be more likely to listen to you and what you have to say about it. And then helping your parent. And then if you're a parent or engaging parents in helping their child use social media more responsibly, either if you're a parent yourself, then kind of integrate your perspective and how you believe it is affecting your child. Or if you're a teacher or something trying to help parents have more of an influence there, then communicate that to their parents. But the first step is always going to be understanding.
Amazing. Our next question is, how do we get the message across to your peers to focus on more positive and helpful content and messaging rather than negativity? For example, TikTok challenges that are positive.
Message across to your peer. Right. And that's the thing though, too, because I think, well, part of the problem is the fact that social media right now, a lot of a lot of videos that perform very well, that get very big, that perform well on the algorithm, typically are negative content. You'll see the same thing with news, right? The news will sensationalize content and make it generally negative because as a result, more people will sit there, they'll watch more, they'll be more fearful. So as a result, they'll be more consistent and they'll get more eyeballs watching. In the same way the news works, social media is the same way. People are going to be drawn more to negative content just because it incites that feeling of fear in them. Now, what I can say instead is it's not just sitting there and developing messaging saying, hey, focus on positive content, but it is a general collective shift of mindset. I think the draw to negativity within young people does not necessarily, it's not innate. It doesn't stem from just wanting to consume negative content. I think it stems from internal dissatisfaction. I think it stems from general fear of the current state around them. I think it stems from something deeper to where maybe they don't feel in place in the world around them. Maybe they don't feel in place with themselves. And as a result, they're going to be drawn to negativity because that's what speaks to them. I think it goes deeper than that to where if someone feels entirely satisfied with themselves and their presence in the world around them, they will not be drawn to negativity and they will not produce negativity as a result. So I think it starts offline to where you start to foster a positive, not nihilistic mindset. And then that will tend to translate online as a result.
Amazing. All right, those are all the questions that I saw in the chat, but we're also going to share our emails here as well. So if any more questions come up after the webinar, you just want to ask in a more private space, feel free to reach out to either of us. We're going to share in just a sec here. Sorry. And I just wanted to finish off by giving a huge thank you to Jay Levin, our president and founder. When I met Jay, I just could tell he has the biggest heart. He cares immensely for social emotional learning and children and helping the next generation live better lives with less conflict and more emotional availability and emotional connection. And I remember when I met Jay, he told me that he's hoping to be a elementary school teacher, but that he won't until his mission at Equip Our Kids is accomplished. So if not for many of the hundreds of reasons we've given today, for Jay's sake, let's really make this happen in all schools across the United States. And thank you to everybody for being here today as well, and for listening to our portion of SEL Day. We really, really do appreciate you listening and commenting and asking questions. It's been wonderful. I think Gia and I would both agree. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you so much, Gia and Molly, for a very powerful session. Really appreciated it. And we are heading over to another session. This session is just about to end. So folks, please comment in the chat. What are some of your key takeaways from this session? So take just a moment to put that in the chat, but also please post your takeaways from this session on social media and hashtag SEL Day, because we were looking to get SEL Day trending. We are within the trending hour for SEL Day right now. So our next session coming up at the top of the hour is going to be engaging and empowering the voices of all students. That this session came with Equip Our Kids with support from SEL for California. The next session is focusing on support from SEL for New Jersey. And this will be another student panel, and also with Patrick Fennell, who's from SEL for New Jersey and the School Culture and Climate Initiative, on engaging and empowering the voices of all students. So we are putting the link to that next session in the chat right now. You can just pop right over on there right when this session ends and keep joining us. We are going to go till 5 p.m. Eastern with this SEL Day Summit. And again, a big thank you to Gia and Molly for this session.